study session of the Aurora City Council for Monday, May 6th, 2024 is called to order. With the clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Kaufman.
Here.
Councilmember Bergen. Here. Councilmember Cruz.
Present.
Councilmember Gardner.
Here.
Councilmember Hancock. Here. Councilmember Drinsky. Here. Councilmember Lawson.
Here.
Councilmember Medina. Here. Councilmember Nerio. Present. Councilmember Sandberg.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Devine.
There's no mayor updates or any issue updates. Seeing none, is there any objection to moving the consent calendar forward? Item number 2A through 2J. Seeing no objection, the consent calendar will move forward. Number 2A to item 2J. Items from the policy committee. 3A, Fisher Committee update for April. Ms. Rogers.
Thank you, Mayor. Liz Rogers, Intergovernmental Relations Manager for the city. So the Pfizer Committee met on April 26th and took positions on several bills. I believe that will be referenced on page 312 in the packet. So the city took 2 opposed positions on House Bill 1460, Law Enforcement Misconduct, and House Bill 1366, Sustainable Local Government Community Planning, and an amend position on House Bill 1447, Transit Reform. There was also a bill brought up to the committee here for study session by recommendation of the committee on Senate Bill 24-182, Immigrant Identification Document Issuance. This was brought up for the council to take a position recommendation as this was requested per the committee. Happy to go through the information about the legislation. Obviously, this position is up to council discretion.
Questions of Liz Rogers, Councilmember Bergen.
Did the construction defect law fail?
Unfortunately, yes.
Thank you.
Further questions, comments? Seeing none, thanks, Liz. Appreciate it.
Just one question. On the last one, did you say that they wanted us to take a position?
Correct.
So there was no position taken?
There was no position taken at the committee. It was per the committee's request that this bill be brought forward for discussion through the council.
So what is the legislation?
The bill is Senate Bill 24-182, Immigrant Identification Document Issuance. The bill would authorize the issuance of a driver's license or identification card to an individual who is not lawfully present in the United States. So it removes the 2-year requirement for a person to have lived in the United States before getting an ID. This staff did analyze this legislation per the request of the committee, and we found that this is more of a matter of state policy and it does not impact the city's operations or processes. Therefore, it is up to council discretion for a position on this legislation. In terms of where this is currently, this has passed the Senate and the House, and it's supposed to be heard on the House floor today. However, that has not happened per my last reading of this before study sessions started.
Is it Wednesday the last day?
The 8th, which is Wednesday.
Councilmember Bergen.
Oh, I've heard from a lot of residents on this particular bill, and I mean, people are very upset that have come through the United States through the legal process and really don't understand why we would issue driver's licenses. I just want to say that on behalf of a lot of my constituents.
So it's a House bill? And
It is a Senate
it's
bill.
in the, I'm sorry, it's a Senate bill and it's in the House right now?
Correct. It's on the House floor.
Okay.
Yeah, Mayor, one other concern I would bring up is that as we continue to move toward bringing our navigation center online, one of the concerns is having people who are not lawfully in the country going into the navigation center, and this would create a lawful way for them to do it by having that ID or potentially doing that, right, by moving that timeline up by 2 years.
I would have to look further into that.
So that's a concern that I have about it.
Very well. Further questions? Thanks, Liz. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Combs.
I just think in, past conversations on these issues, a lot of what has been brought up is kind of public safety concerns and ways in which this can actually help address public safety concerns by not having people not go through the process of doing driving tests and other licensing components. Can you talk a little bit about what those conversations have been at the legislature up to this point?
In regards to public safety for this legislation, I mean, this is in terms of direct relation to the influx of migrants and refugees that Denver has been seeing and the state has been seeing from other areas of the world. If that is the purview of the legislature to increase safety, I would assume that's something that they would be looking into. However, when we evaluate these bills, we evaluate directly on the impact to the city. The city does not issue driver's licenses.
Further questions or comments? Councilmember Bergen.
Well, back to Councilmember Zvonik's comment, I mean, it does affect the city because if we have a navigation center that we're supposed to require IDs and everyone's going to have a Colorado driver's license, you know, then, I mean, that does affect us.
So this is.
And it probably affects us on public safety, sorry.
So this would be undocumented, correct?
This would be someone who would come in, who would apply, they would still have to apply to get a ID.
So
But they would not have to wait
pending
the
an asylum
2-year
claim or
requirement
something?
to do so.
Pending an asylum claim or something like that, I think we'd have to know more about it. But I think you may have to look at criteria. Councilmember Combs.
Well, so I guess I have a question about that, about requiring IDs to be at the navigation center. You know, in a lot of instances, that's one of the things that people are doing while they're in congregate shelter is getting their ID documents situated. So are we going to be asking that an ID be required for folks to be there?
I think that's to be determined, right? Whether or not, what type of ID we want to make sure that the people that we're serving are in the country lawfully, and so how that system works, I think, is to be determined. My concern with this is if we're giving people who are in the country illegally an ID, there would be no way to screen them out of participating.
Councilmember Bergen.
Well, I know currently with our Day Resource Center, we actually, if you're a citizen of the United States and you've lost your ID, for example, I know, you know, Bob Dorsheimer's helps them get the valid documents that they need. So, I mean, we do help them get the documents if they're missing them, if they are for citizens or
And that's applying for state
or
ID.
applying for, yeah.
Mayor, if I may have
Yeah,
Emma
please.
jump into the conversation, please.
Hey all, I'm a night manager from the program. We wouldn't require folks to have an ID to access services. What we would do is anyone who's accessing services at the site would be issued something like a clarity card, which links to our HMIS system, which is how we track people experiencing homelessness and kind of get demographics and things like that. So they would get some form of ID at the shelter, and they would be required to have that, but it wouldn't need to be like a state ID or anything like that.
Do they require a social security number to be an HMIS system?
No, they don't require any kind of documentation to be in that.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, Councilmember.
well, so I have a concern because a lot of us, well, I shouldn't say a lot of us, some of us voted to fund the navigation center with the intent of it serving our homeless population. So now it looks like we might be serving migrants that are not, so that we're just going to end up increasing the population, increasing the amount of services, increasing the monies that are going to have to be dedicated, just like Denver right now is spending tens of millions of dollars on the migrant services. So it is an issue.
So the majority of folks who are coming in undocumented aren't accessing shelter services in the same way that our population of folks experiencing homelessness are. So you might get a few people coming in who aren't documented in that way because maybe they came in with those groups of migrants, but that won't be the majority of our folks accessing those services.
Okay.
They typically access other services and do other things, but they're usually trying to work and find services elsewhere.
The challenges are very different, but I do think that Mayor Pro Tem Zavani is going to be coming forward with a resolution to further define what the Aurora Navigation Resource Center is going to look like. And so I think that certainly you can consider that in that resolution. Further comments, further questions of Liz? Seeing none, thanks, Liz. Item number 3B, waive fees for disabled veterans to use parks, recreation, and open space facilities. Councilmember Medina is moving that forward, and Brooke, could you give us a presentation on that?
I don't have a presentation on this item. If Councilmember Medina has some comments on that, I'd be happy to answer questions on the cost.
Councilmember Medina?
Sure. So again, I just brought this up regarding getting some disabled veterans some opportunities to utilize our facilities at no cost. I looked at the overall cost of that. It's going to be a fiscal impact, obviously, if we were to include every single active duty person as well. I think it's around $217K. With this impact, it would be a revenue impact of about $92,500, which is in the backup. So it's just something that I wanted to do in honor of that, of their service to our community. And again, I'm asking you guys to look at that. If you have questions, to let us know, or how we can mitigate the impact that it will have on our revenue.
Question the sponsor of Brookvale, Councilmember Sundberg.
Well, this is just for disabled veterans, not all veterans within the community?
Correct. I had that originally, but the cost is where I'm wrestling with, is where can I make that up?
Councilmember Gardner.
How are we going to verify this? And is that to be verified every time they come?
They have documentation in there.
Well, no, I get that, but
I can
what's
answer
the
that.
process going to be?
I could answer that. So this is Brooke Bell, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Open Space. We could use what the DMV uses now. That's when we see a disabled veteran license plate at the Aurora Reservoir, we allow free entrance. And the way that license plate is obtained is the disabled veteran has to have an discharge, an honorable discharge. So we would want to see the DD 214 indicating the veteran received that honorable discharge from any branch of the armed services. Also through the Veterans Administration, the Veterans Affairs. Disabled veterans have a qualification letter either from the Veterans Affairs or one of the military branches. And what the DMV uses is 50% or more of service connected to permanent disability, or loss of use of one or both feet, loss or use of one or both hands, loss of sight in both eyes. Certainly, we could use something different with regard to the disability. The VA does make determinations on disability at 10% increments. DMV requires 50%.
Can I ask a follow-up, because my question wasn't answered?
Yes.
Oh,
So that's all fine, but my question is, so if I'm a disabled veteran, every time I walk into a rec center, do I have to show that documentation? My question is, what are we going to do actually at the rec center? Like, I get all that there's this criteria for determining somebody is a disabled veteran, but do I have to carry my papers with me every time I walk in? And are we going to rely on somebody at the front desk to verify that? There's actually an efficiency cost to doing this, in addition to the lost revenue that we're apparently going to subsidize these folks from using our recreation centers.
we would look at it one time and offer them a membership. So that would be the process. And that's what we do with any membership. We look at people's paperwork as far as being resident or non-resident.
Councilmember Varga, then Councilmember Jaworski.
So I appreciate that we want to honor our disabled veterans. I think you mentioned some of our veterans have a lower threshold of disability. So you said you would use, I can't remember what document it was, to show that it was the DMV one for 50% disability.
Yeah, each veteran has a letter, should have a letter from the VA or from their branch of service stating what their level of disability is.
But I guess back to Councilmember Gardner's question, so that will be a requirement to get?
Yes, we can make that a requirement.
Okay, because I mean, there are some that are 10%. And I guess further than that, we just increased our rates by 10% for the general population. In fact, Moorhead is about half of what Central Recreation Center and Southeast Recreation residents pay. So we've just increased the fees by 10%, and now we're basically giving away free memberships, not only to the rec centers, but then to the parks and so forth. I fear this turns into a precedent where someone who's just disabled and not a veteran is going to be coming forward and saying, I would like to have a free membership. And, you know, you could keep on going, and pretty soon, we're not going to have any revenue because we're already allowing children in that are unsupervised. They're not paying. And then we're putting the burden on those people that do pay. So I guess I do have a concern. I would like to see some sort of discount, but I don't know about free.
Councilmember Drinsky, then Councilmember Moreno. Councilmember Moreno.
I'm prepared to support free membership to our rec centers for our disabled veterans at a lower or higher threshold. To me, that's I don't know, like a sign of respect. I also want to just acknowledge that this, I guess, essentially went through 2 policy committees roughly. The PR Plus, just as a report out from the Veterans Commission, talked through a bunch of issues and great ideas that they had about working with the city. This was one of them. And then Councilmember Medina, as a fee, Parks, Recreation, Open Space policy committee. So I'm prepared to support a free or discounted at whatever 10%, 15%, or 50% level.
Councilmember Drinsky.
Yeah, I strongly oppose this, and I actually speak with a disability rating from the military and an honorable discharge that would qualify for this program. I'm strongly opposed to this, and at the state level, the state with a 100% disability rating, you get a free state parks pass, and I would be willing to look at that for our reservoir for a 100% disability rating. But also too, anybody who has a disability, who leaves the military with a disability rating, we have a card. We have a card that shows that. So I'm not, going down the slippery slope of verifying DD-214s. I'm not even quite sure that I'm confident that the city could competently do that. But for those of us that have honest disability ratings, we carry cards, and those cards give us access to every single military base in the world. Buckley Space Force Base has a massive gym, a massive rec center, a massive, more equipment than any of our rec centers have. And every disabled veteran in this city who has an honest disability rating, and has been rated by the VA upon discharge and upon honorable service discharge, has access to that base. I think, but again, and I'm speaking as a disabled veteran with a rating high enough that would qualify for this program, and I am against this. I would be willing to look at what the state does for 100% disability rating and honor a free reservoir annual pass, but for this, I am opposed to it. The general fund cannot keep subsidizing our rec centers the way that they are. And again, nice in gesture, but let me tell you, veterans have access, disabled veterans have access to one of the nicest gyms in the entire city.
Councilmember Gardner.
Yeah, I don't support it either. I appreciate Councilmember Dino working on it, but at our workshop a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, the pros department wanted us to increase our fees by 30%. And I didn't support that, but now here we are 2 weeks later asking us to start subsidizing people. So which is it? Do we need to increase our fees by 30%, or do we need to be subsidizing people? Like, the messages aren't jiving with me, so I'm not supportive.
Councilmember Drinsky, would you support for 50% and up, limiting it to the reservoir?
I would stick with the state and say 100% only, because I can pull out my card right now, Mayor, and I can show you that on the disability cards from the VA, it doesn't list your percentage. It doesn't give your rating, your percentage of disability, what you are rated by the VA upon discharge. So that's where we get into, people have to bring in DD-214s and this and that. I would support. Again, I'd be happy to have a free annual pass to the Aurora Reservoir. I use it more than anybody in this room. But I believe that we should follow the state on that and honor that for 100% disability rating.
I'm not sure somebody with 100% disability rating would be in a position to use the reservoir.
Oh, they are. All the PTSDers, Mayor. Oh. A little crazy.
Not going to go there. Okay, further discussion. Okay. Seeing none, is there objection to moving item number 3B forward?
I object.
Okay. Well, 5 haven't arisen in opposition.
6.
Can you raise your? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The motion will not move forward. Item number 3B will not. Item number 3C, amendments to the city code regarding unauthorized camping. Councilmember Sumner.
Thank you, sir. 3C and 3D work together. When it comes to our homelessness population, we really want people to be helped to recover and get well. And I think our small wellness court that we have is a little microcosm of that, where people are maybe captured by the law, not necessarily. They probably have a severe addiction, a little bit of criminal history, but a team of people surrounds them and cheers them on to success, as we've seen recently in the last graduation with someone with the sobriety of 750 days and a job, and he's just really advancing. He's come out of a bad situation, but we want to celebrate that. And so we don't want to be punitive in nature. We want to be supportive in this court system, and Judge Day is helping to formulate it, and Councilmember Gardner could add more to it. But,
I'm sorry, are we on 3C?
Well, I tell you what, why don't we do both of them, since both of them are really
Okay.
designed to move together?
Yep.
Why don't we address both at the same time, if there's
Yeah,
no
I
objection?
wanted to understand 3C first.
Did you? Okay. So I'm not speaking out of turn, hopefully, but, this is signage. There's a sign right over there, if you look that way, a notice of trespass that we would implement in certain sensitive areas around the city, maybe where there's habitual trespassing, public safety issues are created, there's biohazards, there's sometimes a fire hazard. Okay, you look what happened in the Marshall fire. See how windy it's been these last couple of days. Imagine that in July, and someone is camping and starts a fire near Cherry Creek or those neighborhoods nearby. People are tapping into electrical systems along the canals and trails. There have been numerous council requests, at least through me, from women that don't feel safe as they're doing volunteer work there or hiking and running. In fact, one of our former council members, like 4 or 5 years ago, was beaten by a homeless individual with a board almost to death. If someone had not run for help within a few minutes, she probably would have died. And so this general safety concerns, but ultimately we want people to get into a court like this if they're willing and if they are scooped up under a low-level charge, and just encouraged to go through phases to advance their life and ultimately get back into a productive life in society. So these things work together. Hopefully with our police department, we will have a team of officers that get to know in a dedicated fashion our homeless population, build trust in that way. And again, this is about support and encouragement. And in this court system, it's more of a one-stop shop, as we've seen in various cities, Arvada, Fort Collins. You can even bring your dog to court, and the judge holds people accountable, but it is supportive.
Yes, if I could just add a little bit to it. And so essentially the way the ordinance is written. So right now, I wrote the original camping plan. And what it effectively states. Now, obviously, private properties trespass. Parks is an automatic trespass. But outside of that, it's essentially a 72-hour notice. And as long as a person moves, i.e. that camp is abated in those 72 hours, then the person can simply move. And there's no distance requirement within the original camping unit that I wrote. So they can move down the street, they can move back, but the areas are abated and cleaned up. What this proposal says is it takes the I-225 corridor initially, and it makes it, it falls upon our trespass ordinance. So the objective, and that's why it's really, as Councilmember Sundberg said, it's really paired with this new court that's carried by Councilmember Gardner, co-sponsored by Councilmember Sunwood, that is what they call a problem-solving court to handle low-level offenses by individuals experiencing homelessness. And I think that, I know Councilmember Schoenberg and Councilmember Jerensky have gone to the Veterans Court. And it's really kind of the same thing, where it's I believe, a years-long probation if they agree to that, rather than face charges, as long as they meet the requirements of the probation, whether it's addiction recovery, whether it's, mental health or whatever, to help them get on their feet. And then from a policy standpoint outside of this, I think it's about prioritizing the pallet home shelters for them, so there's a place to stay. And so if in fact they're just like in the Veterans Court and the drug court that we currently have, they get through the year in terms of addressing the court order requirements, then those charges are dropped. So the goal is to really to move that population into treatment as much as possible. Now, that area can be expanded, but I think given the resources we have, that's probably a good place. The I-225 corridor is a good place to start. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor, because I was going to ask what area that was, so that makes sense. 225, we have so many issues there. And I'm in favor of the court program. I'm in favor of the new ordinance regarding the abatement. My question is more on the funding of the program. So it has $310,500 ongoing costs, and two of the sub areas are let's see, the dedicated flex fund of $100,000, and it has notes community partners. I really didn't understand what that really is, as well as peer support outreach for another $100,000 ongoing. And I guess my question is, we have funded the navigation campus. We have an operator that has been identified with, and we're going to have certain conditions and so forth. So we currently have a day resource center. So until the navigation center is open, why would we need to hire additional staff? Wouldn't we be able to just refer them to the day resource center initially, or to the navigation center once it opens to get those resources? So I guess that's my only concern, is the funding part.
Let me go to Jessica Price or M&I, whoever one of you could address that.
So the idea when we visited some of these courts is the service providers are on site at court. So as they're meeting with the navigator, they're going in to talk to the judge, they're coming back out, and the judge tells them what they need to do, and the folks they need to talk to are right there. And so we have agreements with a lot of service providers that we would expect to come in, and many of them Judge Day's coordinated with, and they're willing to come in and offer that. So we're not necessarily paying for the FTE, but what we have heard when we visited these other courts is if there's a carrot to go with the stick is you came to court today, the carrot is, one, the pallet shelters that the mayor just spoke of, and we have some that will be dedicated to this, but additional sort of incentives for people is helpful. So that's where the flex fund works very well, right? It's first month's rent, it's a deposit, it's something where the navigators on site can work with these people to get them off the streets as they're often, repeating coming through here.
So the flex fund is more for the person, not
The person,
for.
correct,
Because it
not
said
for the
community
agency.
partners on here, which was confusing.
Yeah, and again, we're figuring out exactly what this will look like. There may be some pieces or parts, but definitely we're looking to have something that would just be dedicated to the people in the program, separate from the rest of the flex fund, just for them for participating in the program if they progress through the levels. And yes, when we get the navigation campus up and running, we're looking to launch this, late July, early August. We won't have all the services up in place yet. We can refer them there. It's just that point of, if you refer someone, then they'll likely never end up there, right? So if you have the service providers there, when they come out from talking to the judge, you can get them connected.
And those are contracted, because it says $25 an hour we're not going to hire new FTEs for a program that would end up at the navigation center anyway, right?
Judge, you want to talk about using existing resources and what expansion looks like?
And first, to address the $100,000 that you had a question about, really the way that I'm looking at it is more of a set-aside than necessarily a dedicated amount that we will spend for the program, because it is a brand-new program, right? We're not going to know specifically what the costs are going to be. Could there be partners that we have talked to that will provide and cover all of the participants' costs for the entire 12-month program? And it is. It's a 12-month dedicated program with different stages, specific requirements of each stage. Just as the mayor indicated and Councilmember Sundberg indicated, it's a very dedicated, focused program for the people that we're talking about for the ordinance that you're also considering tonight. Those two go hand in hand. And the program will be only dedicated to the ordinance that you're considering tonight as well. So really what that $100,000 is we don't know. We don't know what the cost will be for the participants for what they're going to need as they go through the program. And we're asking for, really what I look at it is not it will be spent money. It's an allocation, if you will, set aside for what we anticipate could be the program costs. And so I look at it more in that way.
And then I think your question is about the year 2, right? So
Yes.
this is pilot. We're piloting for a year.
Okay.
We're looking at the overall cost, right, as you build out the program. So as we do proof of concept, these are just, general numbers that can be used as we expand and take in more folks, what it could be. So we can make that decision later, but the judge is going to use existing staff for right now.
Okay.
If you want to expand, these would probably be the cost would be.
We have some amazing team partners already for our problem-solving courts. One that's already here tonight, Dustin Tenney. Dustin, if you want to stand, he's going to be the kind of the lead for us. So the question is we already have case managers for all these other community partners, right? Why do we need Dustin? Why do we need, but really what he's going to be is he's going to be the central person for the program. He's going to pull together all those community partners, utilizing the things that they offer within their programs. He's going to be the person that brings it forward to the court and presents each and every court session. He's the one that's going to be the lead contact person for all the participants in the program. So he's the dedicated person for the court for this program.
I'm actually good. My questions have been answered, and I appreciate the clarification because it wasn't 100% clear on the ongoing, and I am happy also to hear it's a pilot program, so I'm good.
Mayor, I just wanted to get some clarification. So within the triangle, what we call the triangle, which, you and I know we submit a lot of council requests, is this where these signs will be placed?
That's part of the I-225 corridor.
Well, what we call the triangle, where this is where the signs will be placed. And how far down on the trail, down from 225, when you get off on Parker Road, will these signs be placed? We consider the triangle.
They're going to be placed as the ordinance reads in places where we abate often that are sort of repeat areas.
Okay.
So exactly how far, I don't know, but the pinpoint locations of where we go back to on an ongoing basis for abatement is where they will be placed in those areas to close those areas.
Councilmember Sundberg.
And it does define those areas that are closed to camping. And we may want to amend it by stating that the existing CDOT no trespassing signs suffice. Does that work?
I think we'd have to check with legal on that one. As we developed this signage and CDOT has approved this signage, I actually think we have to add this to make the ordinance work because this has additional language. The ones along the 225 corridor now just simply say no trespassing.
Okay.
And also, I'm sorry, Mayor, and also too, along the state park, they also put trespassing signs. So don't you have to contact them as well because they also have the signs there as well?
Probably do.
And we've been working with the county sheriff of Arapahoe County, I think, on that one because we don't have jurisdiction. That is not in the city of Aurora.
Right, but I'm just trying to see how this is going to work with what's there.
Councilmember Drewski.
Mayor, don't forget about my Welcome to Denver sign that I also want over there in the triangle. I'm still waiting on an update.
I thought it was Kansas City now.
No, I'm waiting on my Welcome to Denver sign so that our constituents know exactly where Aurora ends and Denver begins, so they can see that.
So, Councilmember Coons.
So I'm very supportive of 3D. I did have a question about 3C for the city attorney's office. Have we looked into at all the impact that the recent grants past Supreme Court ruling would have on this type of legislation? Having listened to the arguments, one of the issues that was raised by the justices was that things like these public health and safety issues are already addressed through other laws, and that camping may not, may not be necessary or justified in addition to those other actions that are included in the public health and safety issues. So I don't know if we've kind of looked at this ordinance in light of that finding.
My understanding is there hasn't been a finding from the Supreme Court yet. That was just the oral arguments. And if you've ever paid attention and are a court watcher, you know sometimes what comes out in an oral argument is entirely different than what's in the actual decision. We are monitoring it, and depending on what the final decision is, there may be some tweaks to this program.
Sure. Further questions or comments?
The signage doesn't need to be that large, does it?
Well, I like it. I can see and help but see.
Part of the proposal is the city manager will be on the corner with us.
Spinning up.
This is a tough love approach. We, in talking to Councilmember Sundberg, we went to view two courts, one in Arvada, one in Lakewood. The chief judge was with us, Justice Prosser and Emma Knight went as well to evaluate those courts, and we were very impressed with them. And so we currently have outreach teams that go out every single week, and we get and offer services, and we get very few takers. And this makes it in this area, which I believe is the center of gravity for unsheltered homelessness, where it's no longer a choice. We really, it's a tough love approach where, it's a trespass offense. And then there's no 72-hour notice, there's no notice. But we've got a treatment approach to it, a problem-solving court that's specially designed to help them and to get them into treatment.
Mayor?
Yes.
I'm very supportive of this too. I think, especially since I live in that area, it is really important that we take a strong stand in helping people to be good stewards of their own lives. It's important for us to say, look, this is it. It's getting out of control. The health, the safety, and well-being of our communities at stake. And for us as a council and as a city, we have to take a strong approach to this and let people know that they have to be responsible. And we want to help them do that. So I'm very supportive of both of these programs, and seeing that young man that went through the HEART program and his success from where he was and to where he ended is really very encouraging to see. When people are given resources and opportunities and held accountable, they can improve their lives.
So if someone has a very serious substance abuse issue, you would then direct them to the correct resources?
100%.
100%,
Yep.
okay.
100%.
For Judge Day, anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Jersey.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, you said, that I attended one of these. And just for your peace of mind, Councilmember Bergen, it's a great program. The only thing weak about this program is the mayor's push-ups at the end. The ceremony is culminated by everybody in the room getting down and doing push-ups, and the mayors are a little...
May not have been a full...
Sunberg one.
Okay, further questions come to 3C and 3D. Is there any objection to moving 3C and 3D forward? Seeing none, 3C and 3D will move forward. Item number 5A, Aurora Public Schools presentation.
Yes, Mayor. Let's see, we have Aurora Public Schools with us today. They want to present on the state of the district as well as bring a bond topic issue before us. We have Dr. Ann Kiki, who is the president of the school board, and she works tirelessly and has a heart for student outcomes. She's also had a heart for wanting the district to work with city council and stay in good communication. And we also have our chief of staff, their chief of staff, Mark Sieglum, who was a former temporary superintendent. And so I'd like to turn it over to them. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having us here today. My name is Dr. Ann Kiki, President of the Aurora Public Schools Board of Education, and I am here with our former interim superintendent and chief of staff, Mark Siglum. And yes, we would like to give you an overview of where APS is, and that's the reason why we're here. So what's new in APS these days? We did just have our new superintendent hired just a little a year ago in the name of Michael Giles. We call him Mike. And he started, last July, and that's our new hire. And Mike comes from Cherry Creek School District, and he's lived his whole life, pretty much 25 years and plus, in Aurora, he and his family, and he's excited to lead APS in its new chapter. In his quest to make APS better, his way of doing that is to really transform Aurora Public School into a destination district. We hear people when they say to us that, when they ask us about the state of our schools, our individual schools, how our students are doing, and things like that. So in his mind, he's working really with his leadership team to make APS a destination school. And that's what that means, where students are valued, where educators also are valued and seen, heard, where our students are proficient at all grade levels, where parents and guardians also are welcome and engaged in their students' education, and where our partnerships are enhanced and sustained to provide greater opportunity for our students. Also, where a destination district where we recruit, we hire, and we keep our staff. And we want to hire and keep the most talented staff. We're working tirelessly on that. What is the type of the demographic that we serve? First, we want to let you know, and I don't know if you know that, but we have the 5th largest district in the state and the most diverse, the #1 diverse district. So we are unique in this. We serve over 38,000 students that come from 130 countries of origin and speak over 160 different languages. Our students population is unique in a sense where 74% of our population is on free and reduced lunch, and 42 are English learners. We do have over 5,500 employees, and we do have 58 schools broken down in these numbers that you see. 20 elementary schools, 9 P8 and K8 schools, 5 middle schools, 1 grade 6 to 12 academy, 5 high schools, 4 magnet schools, 2 magnet high school program, 1 vocational school, 9 charters, 1 online program, and 1 homeschool. And I will pass it on to Mark.
Thank you, Dr. Kiki. Mayor Kaufman, members of council, thank you very much for having us here this evening, and I'm very interested in speaking to you about some of the successes and strengths of our APS community. I think our strongest supporters, of course, are our community, and we have an incredible community here in Aurora that supports Aurora Public Schools. We've seen a significant increase in graduation rates and a decrease in our dropout rates, both incredibly important to the success of our students and to preparing the future workforce for Aurora. Our academic achievements, we're showing areas of improvement. We need to do more. Obviously, the pandemic has affected Aurora Public Schools as it has every school district across the country. Our college and career success, we have Betcher Scholars, Daniel Scholars, and in 2023, our class of 2023 is, as the slide says, more than $23 million in scholarships, and we're very proud of that, and we're building on that every day and in every class. Our challenges and opportunities, well, Blueprint APS, which I know you've already been briefed on concerning our long-range plan for development in the school district. You've heard a great deal about that. Our changing demographics. As we have seen on the western side of Aurora, a decrease in the population. All you have to do is drive to the airport and look at all the new housing developments going in and the growth that's going there. The important piece there, though, is that in addition to building new schools on the eastern side of the district, we must also serve our tremendous population on the western side of the district with schools that average around 40 years plus. For those of you that don't know, Crawford Elementary School was built in 1932. Now it has been refurbished and rebuilt almost from the ground up twice since then. But the original foundation that's there was built in 1932. We have limited state funding, and I'll speak to that here in a second. And like every industry that I've encountered in the last 5 years, we have tremendous labor shortages, not only in educators, teachers, but also in bus drivers, custodians, all across the board when it comes to staffing the school district, and the most important piece, staffing our classrooms. And so we've had to find new and different ways to attract folks to come into the district. I talked about funding just very briefly. That straight line you see across the top, that's the national average. You can see where Colorado sits with respect to funding K-12 education. It appears as if the legislature this week is taking steps, actually today, is taking steps to help rectify that, but there's a sort of a deep hole to dig out of there, and that is a concern for all education across the state of Colorado. So what do we do about that? Planning for the future. These are really important, these last two slides. If you get nothing out of the rest of what I'm saying here, please look at these last two slides. We have the ability to provide a $1 billion bond, never done before in the state of Colorado, with no tax increase to our taxpayers. That's an incredible accomplishment. And how do we do that? Well, we do it because, one, the increase in assessed values, and two, because we've accelerated our debt service on our bonds, our debt service. We've accelerated our debt service in 23 and 24 on our earlier bonds. And as a consequence, we will be able to offer a bond in the fall of $1 billion with no tax increase. Based on its current rate, that's quite an accomplishment, and really I think a nod to the fiscal responsibility and the fiscal stewardship of Aurora Public Schools. So what are our bond themes coming up? One is that they're themes that you all know and that our community has stated over and over again. Enhanced health, safety, and security. Health, predominantly mental health. Safety and security, keeping our children safe both in schools and around schools, on our school buses, getting them to and from school. Equitable future planning. What does that mean? That means making sure that as we build new schools in the eastern part of the district, we also take care of our older schools in the western part of the district, where we are still building schools there as well. And we've built Del Mar Academy on the site of an older school, but making sure that the schools that we have that need to be refurbished are refurbished. Innovative learning opportunities. We already have what is referred to as Construct Tech, which is a 6-year program through our high schools, and then partnering with CCA, Community College of Aurora, to provide an associate's degree in construction management. We also have a partnership with UC Health, and we want to do the same thing and create what is referred to in education parlance as a PTEC with UC Health for health services. That would be another 6-year program, and in fact, we are looking very closely at across the board, and it isn't just health in terms of, say, nurses and doctors and CNAs, but it's also health administration, facilities work, food preparation, all of those sorts of things that go into running a complex like we have at Anschutz and in UC Health. And we have other ideas that are on the way, and it's one of the reasons that we've created a very strong CTE, Career Technical Education component within Aurora Public Schools. And we know that Mayor Kaufman has already come out in support of our bond, and we hope very strongly that the rest of you and the City Council will come out in support of our bond come this fall. To give you a quick update on newcomer supports. As you know, Aurora Public Schools has been one of the most severest dealing with in trying to help the migrants who have come into our Denver metro area. We convened both a short-term and a long-term work group. I chaired the short-term work group. One of our other executive directors on leadership team is chairing the long-term work group, and we have looked at what we needed to do in order to support these children and families coming into our community. From the work that we've done, we've been able to provide additional staffing, excuse me, creative use of our classrooms and spaces to provide additional supports. Auto translation devices we bought that are actually really cool. You speak into them, you hold it up, and it translates perfectly. It's an extraordinary accomplishment. Working with the state, a waiver on testing and requirements. It does us no good to bring a child who was in the 3rd grade in a country outside the United States, or I should say in say 5th grade, and reads at a 2nd grade level, and give them the ELA CMAS test. It does no good to do that. And then community schools, we've used our community schools model to provide additional wraparound support, not only for the children, but then also for their families, because so many of these families that are coming in really have no idea of what America is about, American schools are about, or how to thrive and survive in their new surroundings. So we've done, I think, a great job, and we'll continue to do that as we go forward. We're looking at models all across the country of how best to serve migrants when they come into your community, and we're adopting some of those industry best practices and school district best practices to make sure that we can serve them as best we possibly can. And with that, I'll thank you, show some terrific pictures of our students and staff, and Dr. Kiki and I are here prepared to answer any of your questions you may have.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Any questions? Councilmember Bergen.
Thank you for the presentation. And I do applaud you on the Careers in Construction program, where students are able to get certificates and get their way to a viable job, making good money. I do have a question, just because you spoke of 160 plus languages, and that was already in place before we had the migrant situation. So you now have more challenges, I guess, with languages. I personally was born in France, and my first language was French, and so when I came to the United States, didn't speak a word of English, but quickly was able to master the English language. But you can, at a young age, do that more easily than coming in at an older age. So I guess you said you have a waiver of testing requirements, which I get, but how do you measure the English competency? Because at some point, when they get to graduation, I mean, you would hope that you're going to get them to that place.
Yes, that's a great question. You're absolutely correct. English language proficiency is important for them to be able to advance to their life experience here. And so what we're doing right now, when we say waiving, it's just a year waiver. Okay. But that doesn't mean that we're not collecting data. We are. So those that, for example, the math and science testing, students, newcomers can opt out or can take the test. This is going to serve as a baseline for data collection and see where they are. For the English language, we are still testing them on a regular basis through our, regular, CLD testing in the classrooms. We use iReady, we use other methods of testing, and we collect data as well. But it wouldn't be equitable, it wouldn't be fair to throw them into the CMAS testing when they speak, they don't speak English at all. And so we battled. It's not just APS who did that. All of the districts around the state have come together and said, we can't test these kids because they're all coming in at different level of proficiency in English. So we would like to have a waiver so that if they agree to test, those data, those numbers do not count against us in the district's proficiency itself. So it's not like we are just saying they're not going to test at all.
Right.
There is some sort of testing going on.
But it won't count against you in your overall.
And that's what we want, because we don't want our numbers to be affected negatively.
Okay, and one more question.
Please proceed.
So, usually we have these presentations by APS and Cherry Creek School District every few years. And the third grade proficiency level has always been a challenge. I saw you have improved your stats on third grade proficiency. How have you done that?
So we have, the board evaluates our one and only employee, the superintendent, with the results and limitations that we have set up. So we want him to get our kids at a certain level. So every month, we sit and we analyze the data and we ask our leadership team questions. And people will tell you,
I would tell you that our Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Nia Campbell, has put a specific and very laser-focused approach towards Tier 1 instruction. And through those efforts, through learning walks, through review of teacher performance, review of curriculum, we have been able to start moving that needle where we're starting to see that. And Councilwoman, you're exactly correct. It starts there. You'll never see improvement later on if you don't catch it very, very early on. And some of our wraparound services, before and after school programs that we do, most of our before and after school programs are in our elementary schools, and they are designed to help those students who may not be achieving as much as we would like them to. And I think that has been truly a success story.
Thank you. And really kudos to our Chief Academic Officer. She has come in and she really looked at everything that we're doing and realized that there is no universal curriculum per grade, and she's put those things in place. And now these are being implemented with fidelity and encouraged to be implemented with fidelity. And it is no small work for teachers, but they're willing and to put the work in, and they're cooperative, and we're working along with them, and that's how we're seeing those results and those processes.
Councilmember Mario.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you, Director Kiki, for being here. I'm really happy to hear how equity has been infused at all levels of the school district. Can you talk a little bit more, you mentioned kind of the evaluative piece of the superintendent. Can you talk a little bit more about what the equity criteria looks like in his job performance?
The equity criteria does not come in his evaluation.
Okay.
We evaluate him on the proficiency of our students. We have 4 results, 5 results and 4 limitations. And we analyze those data every month. For example, tomorrow, we do have a few that are going to come to us. We are going to analyze middle school graduation, and that's how we do. So equity doesn't come into that, but we expect him to do his work however he does, but in the lens of those 5 results that we have given him, and we want to see the targets met.
Gotcha. Do you have like a process to infuse like equitable outcomes into your evaluative process?
So far, no, and that's not where we are.
Not even on like an individual basis?
For him, or?
Just as a, you're the president of the school board, which is.
No. My focus is really student outcome, and my focus is student outcome. We want to see results. We want to make sure that our students can read and do math at grade level, even though we are looking at the whole child, and we do know that, these numbers that are not the only thing that represent our students, but we do want to make sure that they are also reading and doing math at grade level.
Further questions or comments? Councilmember Summer.
Thank you for being here today and for the presentation. We rely upon each other, the city and the district. We recruit people to come work in this city at the prestigious Fitzsimmons campus with bioscience and primary jobs in space and defense. And we have some improvement to do with respect to how APS looks and the reputation, right? And also you rely upon us for a safe city, and we work together with our SRO program, which I'm a huge supporter of, and I know they have a heart for kids. So you caught my ear when you're talking about the migrants. You're teaching them what America is about, okay? I hope you teach that America is a good place. I hope you teach that it's a beacon, and that's why they came here in the first place. Because I've seen, and to answer Crystal Murillo's question, I've seen the framework that Mr. Giles is introducing with respect to DEI and so forth. And in a training recently at a school board meeting, I caught this about this is being instructed into the leadership, and it'll flow downward, about intersectionality, okay? Intersectionality requires that the individual connects their identity to larger systems of oppression. And it goes on. And that bothers me, frankly. I want to support you guys, but I don't want things to become so anti-American, right? And so forth. I just want to put that out there to you. But I want to support and work together going into the future. But I've seen a few things that have bothered me with respect to the new superintendent and what guides him. So it's taken care of in a big way for your question on steroids.
I'm sorry.
But thank you for all you do.
Okay, I just want to make sure, was that a comment or was that a question? That
It's a comment and hope that when you teach America what America is about, there's a lot of goodness, and we're not looking for racism under every book and pencil.
Thank you. Rest assured, that's not our intention.
I hope so. Thank you very much, and I appreciate the work you do. These people have no salary as they serve many hours on school board. They deserve it. They can't even buy coffee for people. You deserve a raise.
Thank you.
Were there questions or comments? Councilmember Johnski?
Oh, no, it's just having his back turned, his microphone off, Mayor.
Further questions or
Chit-chat
comments?
up here,
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We are running very late, and
I would be okay polling my ordinance on and postponing it until the next one.
Councilmember Gardner, can you postpone it?
I think we have time.
We have time.
Oh, we don't have a hard stop yet until 6:20.
At 6:25.
Yep. So I think we can.
Very well, please proceed.
Thanks, Mayor. So this is a real straightforward rule change to our proclamation process, and really what it is to clearly define what deserves or is worthy of a proclamation and what isn't. It's kind of falls under the category of if everything's an emergency, nothing is. If everything deserves a proclamation, nothing does. And I think this week is kind of somewhat of a perfect encapsulation. This week is National Teacher Appreciation Week, and we do not have a proclamation proclaiming it National Teacher Appreciation Week. And yet, just 2 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, we recognized National Arbor Day. So apparently we recognize trees more than we recognize teachers here in the city of Aurora. And I say that somewhat jokingly, but perhaps not. And so what this rule change does is very simple. It limits proclamations to things that are very specific locally to Aurora. I actually copied these rules, several of these rules from the city of Colorado Springs. I think at least in my opinion, our proclamations, we're averaging 4, 5, and 6 proclamations a night, and, you know, they become a lot less meaningful when we are reading so many proclamations, and they've really gotten away from, you know, what we do as a city, what city business is, and what's really important to our city, where we're really, the topics are, you know, really only slightly tangentially related to city business. And so very straightforward rule change to clearly define what is kind of worthy or not worthy of a proclamation.
So is Veterans Day not worthy?
Mayor, Veterans Day is in fact a holiday in the city of Aurora, and all city employees get the day off.
So we don't do a proclamation?
So it is a holiday in the city of Aurora, so that's what makes it worthy.
But
Councilmember Morgan.
I think that would still qualify because it is connected to Buckley, right, in our military community. So I think it would still fit under your current category.
And that's correct.
Item 5
Right.
states items such as a day, as day of or month of observances which are regional, state, national, or international in nature are not permitted.
So Veterans Day is a holiday in the city of Aurora, so it's observed as a holiday, is it not?
Yeah, but that doesn't, that's
So that
separate
doesn't,
from-
is that not
do
observed
we-
holiday?
Do we use it, do we honor
So
veterans?
do we do a
Okay, well, I
do
would
we do a
ask that
proclamation
5
for
be-
Christmas?
I would ask that 5 be removed.
Do we
And
do a
as well
proclamation
as,
for Thanksgiving?
We had a.
Or is it only Veterans Day that
No, I
deserves a
think you're
proclamation?
interrupting me right now.
Okay.
We just had, what was it, the issue with military children as an event, and I don't think that would fit under 5. Further discussion.
Mayor,
Councilmember.
yeah, I agree that 5 is overly broad and would bar us from actually recognizing some things we probably do want to recognize. And that bear on our community, right, that are important to the members of our community, even though they are national, state, or international in nature. So I would also support this without the inclusion of 5.
Well, I disagree because, again, like I pointed out, the mayor wants to keep harping on Veterans Day, but we do not do a proclamation for Christmas. We do not do a proclamation for Easter. We do not do a proclamation for Thanksgiving. So perhaps the mayor's showing his true colors that some holidays are more important than other holidays. So in fact, what we are saying is certain holidays are worthy of a proclamation and other holidays are not worthy of a proclamation, which is the very reason why we should make this change.
Didn't we just do one for Donor Alliance, and that was a national?
Support
Councilmember Jaworski.
Yeah, I think for me, I am supportive of this. I think that at all times we should support veterans. I think at all times we should support being against child abuse. I think at all times we should be in support of trees. I think this is at all times. I don't think we need a day, a week, or a month to proclaim that we support any or none of these things. I'm quite frankly tired of all of these proclamations. And I'll be very honest with you, the way that some of them have been written, I don't even agree with them. But here we are proclaiming as a city, and no one gets a say in even setting the agenda except for you and Mayor Pro Tem. I'm very supportive of this. And these different proclamations, like I said, veterans, trees, all of this, ending child abuse, we should be supportive of these things at all times. We don't need to proclaim that for one day, 1 week, or 1 month.
And the issue with Arbor Day referenced the city of Aurora.
Right.
Tree City USA designation. Further questions or comments? Councilmember Morgan.
Is there any way that number 5 could be tweaked a little bit to just be better, a little bit more defined?
Sure.
What's that mean?
Define how?
Yeah.
Define how? Give me a recommendation.
Okay, where there is a total nexus to the city. 'Cause-
Well, it does say that because it doesn't exclude local.
Okay, so that would,
It does not exclude local.
so even if it's week of, then it would, and it's local, it's fine?
Correct.
Okay, I just.
It doesn't exclude local.
I'm just asking a question.
Is there,
Mayor, just a clarifying question.
Councilmember Morgan.
So even if it is also a state, national, or international day of something, as long as we're
We're gonna
calling
still
it
do every
Aurora's
proclamation.
day of that, then it's fine?
I guess. Whatever you guys want to do.
Okay. I would move,
We're going to still do every proclamation.
I would move item 3B forward with the exception of item number 5. Is there objection to moving item 3B forward with the exception of item number 5?
The Access Live event is in music hall.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem objects.
Oh, no, not object. No. I thought it's support.
What's that, I'm sorry?
Support, with amendment?
Right.
Yes, right, yes.
Okay.
Wait a minute, what's the amendment?
Is there objection to moving
I don't agree to that.
item 3B forward without item number 5?
I don't agree to that.
I object also.
Okay.
But you can't amend an item with the sponsor without the sponsor's agreement, so.
It's not a friendly amendment, that's correct. Councilmember Drensky, you're opposed?
Yeah. I'll just bring it back to the next study session.
Okay, Councilmember Gardner's withdrawing.
Keep doing.
With that, the meeting is adjourned.
To tell you, oh baby, it's time.